Hey everybody, it's George Whittam reporting for Whittam's World. I've got one from Bill Jordan this time, and his question involves intermediate studios. He says, I'm looking to upgrade to a Sennheiser 416 and have had several preamps recommended, all in the $200 range. Perhaps a video on the thoughts, re a home studio setup that's not for beginners, but not for someone who has hit the big time yet, to include mic, preamp, XLR to USB adapter, and etc. Also, while I can do auditions from home, I want to be able to record sessions from here as well, which would require ISDN, Source Connect, and or IPDTL. I gather that ISDN is pricey and soon to be a dinosaur anyway, so maybe a video re the other technologies might prove of interest. Thanks again for the videos, and my apologies if you've covered this material already. Hi, Bill. Well, I have covered alternatives to using ISDN, and I may do so again in the future. I've also done a webinar on the topic and talked about it ad nauseum on my other show, eWabs, now Voice Over Body Shop. But I will answer your question about mid-range equipment for someone that wants something up from the basic. So you want to step up from a USB mic, or maybe a step up from just like your basic Scarlett interface. Well, my opinions on that are these days that even the cheapest equipment, no, maybe I shouldn't say cheapest, but even some of the most affordable equipment out there that's even in the $100 range in terms of mic preamp interface devices can give you totally pro studio quality. It is no longer at all a limitation, I feel, because the quality of the componentry, the AD converter chip, the mic preamp chip, all this stuff has gotten so good in a small form factor and an affordable form factor that there's almost zero reason for almost anybody with a home studio to invest in a standalone mic preamp, okay? And there's also high-end mic preamps built into some of these more intermediate priced interfaces, such as some of my favorites like the Universal Audio Apollo, the Audient ID22, and things like that. So I think a lot of it does come down to how flexible do you need your studio to be. There's some audio interfaces, as I mentioned, that sound fantastic. They work beautifully. Their preamps are top notch, and they can do everything you need to do up to a certain limit. And that is regards to how flexible is the audio routing that these devices provide. If all you need to do is just record a voice into the computer, the Scarlett 2i2 will do it. If you really want something with much higher quality, theoretically anyway, preamps and AD converters, and I say theoretically because will you really hear the difference? Not so sure. But you can also look at something a step up that I think is really difficult to beat for its price, and that would be the Audient ID14 that comes in around $300. It's 3 times the price as the Scarlett, and you're getting what arguably are some of the best preamps available in a USB interface and AD converters as well. That's the thing that converts the analog to digital. All those things have something to do with the sound quality. So the ID14, a pretty new device that came out in the last 3 or 4 months, is based on a more expensive, more elaborate device, the Audient ID22, which I've talked about on the show and reviewed, and takes that device, boils it down to simpler features, and still gives you the same quality. So I'm really a pretty big fan of that. But again, some of the flexibility in terms of sound routing might get a little bit limited compared to the ID22. Now, a couple weeks ago, I talked about a device called the Yamaha AG03. It has the flexibility that you need for being able to do recording and playing back of recordings over Skype or over a system like IPDTL, and gives you that capability. Sound quality wise, I was totally impressed with it. Would you need something better than that in a home studio? It's hard to say. I would really love to hear a seasoned voice actor who's already been using high-end gear try out something that's affordable like that and tell me what about it is a limitation. I think they might be hard-pressed to find an actual limitation in that particular unit. So I think one of my points here is that you don't need a standalone mic preamp that's separate from an interface anymore. The preamps that are being placed in these interfaces are so good now that the extra cost and complexity of having an external mic preamp especially something in a $200 range, which probably is not going to have any different or any better circuitry than what's built into one of these interfaces, is just not worth having. If you're looking for more bells and whistles, when I say bells and whistles, I mean compressors, downward expanders, EQ, and stuff like that, then you're looking at something that's not just a preamp, you're looking for a channel strip. Why would you need all that stuff? Well, you might want to use it if you're doing things where you're recording remotely. As Bill said in the question, I want to be able to record sessions from here as well, which means ISDN and Source Connect. What he really means is he wants to be able to have them record him remotely, and he's the remote talent and they're the studio, in which case even the ID14 I mentioned is capable of doing that. However, when you need to interface with external equipment, a little bit more signal routing complexity is required, and that's where if you have to connect to an ISDN codec box, the ID22 or the Universal Audio Apollo comes into play. It has the extra ins and outs that you need to be able to do that effectively. Actually, the AG03 also capable of doing that. $150. I'm still trying to find the downside of that thing. Yeah, it even has compressor and EQ built in. So if you have to do that kind of work, it really could be your one-stop shop, that thing. It still really impresses me. So the point is, don't go too far up the food chain in terms of complexity to think that you need to have a professional studio. And even in that intermediate range, there are a lot of things that are very cost effective. And what it really comes down to is how much flexibility do you need? How much external equipment do you need to interface with? Almost none these days. So much can be done in software nowadays. And it's only those that are doing real-time sessions that might stumble into situations where they have to do some processing on the way in to the system before it makes it into the device, such as your ISDN codec. So those devices that include DSP, like the AG03 or the Universal Audio Apollo Twin, which is one of my favorites, might come into play. So enjoy your studio. Don't go nuts. Don't overspend on preamps. The Sennheiser 416 sounds amazing even when plugged into a Shure X2u, which is a $100 AD converter USB preamp thing. I mean, it really does. It's the mic and it's your acoustics, your placement, and you that make the difference. Everything else is a distant second when it comes down to it. If you want me to get more detailed about this, definitely set me up with a consult. I'll go through it line by line and make sure that every one of your needs can be addressed by whatever equipment you choose. But always start by knowing your budget and knowing your goals. So you've got a good start there, Bill, by knowing that clearly by the kind of question you asked me here. If any of you have a question for a future Whittam's World, do send it in to whittamsworld@edgestudio.com. I also like suggestions for topics, or maybe you even have tried something yourself and you'd like to have me show it on the show. Even reviews of products is cool. If you have technical support questions, technical issues, emergencies, go through vostudiotech.com. You can open a ticket there and get help right away. Or you can call us in the New York office at 212-868-EDGE. Thanks again for watching. Happy Halloween! And I'll see you guys next time. Later.